Acceptance and surrender. The path to true detachment. Imagine that your whole life, you've been taught to resist your emotion. When you're angry, you're told to calm down. When you're sad, you're advised to stay strong. But what if that strategy is wrong? What if, instead of fighting against these emotions, the true path was to fully accept them? It may sound strange at first, but that's exactly what many of the greatest sages have been teaching for centuries. The secret to emotional detachment isn't about repressing what we feel, but about accepting those emotions with deep surrender. Now think about the times you've tried to hide what you really felt, only to see that emotion grow stronger. Resistance is actually what keeps you trapped. Imagine you're trying to hold on to a tightly stretched rope with all your strength. The more you pull, harder it becomes to hold on. But what if you simply let go of that rope? The relief would be immediate, right? This is the essence of acceptance and surrender. When we talk about accepting emotions, we're not talking about giving up control of your life. On the contrary, we're talking about gaining true control by allowing emotions to flow. Let's say you're dealing with persistent anxiety. Instead of fighting it, denying it, or trying to hide it, what would happen if you simply paused, took a deep breath, and said to yourself, I accept this anxiety. It's here. It doesn't define me. By allowing it to be present, you disarm it. This process of acceptance creates space for you to experience your emotions without being controlled by them. So how can we start practicing this? A great example is mindfulness meditation, where instead of fighting thoughts and emotions, you observe them, accept them, and then let them go. It's like watching clouds pass across the sky without clinging to them. If today you allow yourself to practice this acceptance, whether through meditation or simply by consciously acknowledging your emotions, you'll notice a lightness in life that you never thought possible. You know that weight you've been carrying on your shoulders for so long? It might be time to let it go. Inner observer, creating distance from emotions. Now imagine that you are a kind of inner observer, a silent witness who is always present, seeing everything that happens in your mind and heart. Often we forget that we have this power. Instead of becoming the observers of our emotions, we let ourselves be dominated by them. But here's the key. Emotional detachment happens when you stop identifying with your feelings and start observing them from the outside. Sound complicated? Let me simplify it. When you're watching a movie, you might feel fear, joy, or sadness for the characters. But you know that these feelings aren't yours. They're just a temporary reaction to what's happening on the screen. What if you applied that same idea to your life? This is the power of the inner observer. Let's think of a practical example. You're in the middle of an argument with someone, and your emotions are running high. Anger starts to take over, but instead of being swept away by it, imagine that you manage to step back a little. You observe this anger rising as if you were watching a movie. You feel the emotion, but you know you don't have to act on it. This is detachment in action. When you adopt the role of the observer, you begin to see that emotions come and go, like waves in the ocean. They're not permanent, and you have the power to decide how to respond to them. One of the most effective ways to cultivate this inner observer is through the practice of daily self-observation. You can start small. Set aside 5 minutes at the beginning of your day to just sit in silence and observe your thoughts and emotions. Don't judge, don't cling to anything. Just observe. Over time, you'll see that this practice starts to permeate other areas of your life. Instead of reacting automatically to every emotional situation, you become more aware, calmer, and above all, freer. Because in the end, detachment is exactly that, realizing that you are not your emotions but rather the observer of them. Emotional flexibility. Embrace change and free yourself from attachment. Have you ever noticed how even the smallest changes can trigger an avalanche of emotions? Sometimes a simple change in routine or an unexpected comment can make us feel like everything is falling apart. But what few people understand is that our ability to emotionally detach is directly linked to our emotional flexibility. Those who can adapt quickly to change, who accept life's unexpected turns with an open mind, tend to be the same people who don't get stuck in the past or paralyzed by the future. And this is where the real magic happens. Detachment doesn't mean abandoning everything. but rather learning to flow with changes instead of resisting them. Imagine you're in a river. The current is sometimes gentle, sometimes strong. If you try to swim against the current, the effort is immense, and the result is almost always exhaustion. Now, if you relax and allow the current to guide you, the journey becomes lighter. This is the power of emotional flexibility. Instead of fighting against the emotions that arise with change, embrace them. Allow yourself to feel what's happening, but don't cling to those emotions. When a change occurs in your life, like a new job opportunity, a breakup, or even an unexpected crisis, practice flexibility. See the situation as an opportunity for growth and self-discovery. A practical example of this is developing small daily habits that challenge you to step out of your comfort zone. This can be as simple as taking a different route to work or trying a new physical activity. The secret is training your mind to accept changes as a natural part of life, rather than fighting against them. By doing so, you not only increase your emotional flexibility, but also prepare yourself to detach more easily when the big, inevitable changes happen. Because in the end, only constant in life is change, and the more you flow with it, the less you'll cling to things beyond your control. Being in the now, the power of the present in detachment. How many times have you caught yourself thinking about something that's already happened, or worrying about what's to come? For many, this is an endless cycle of worry and regret, keeps emotions stuck in the past or the future. But the true secret of emotional detachment lies in the present moment. Now is the only real moment you have, and it's here you can find freedom. When you learn to live fully in the present, worries about the past and anxieties about the future begin to lose their grip on your emotion. Let's think of a practical example. You're having breakfast, but your mind is replaying an argument you had last night. Or maybe you're worrying about an important meeting later at work. In both cases, you're not present. Your emotions are stuck in times that no longer exist, the past or the future. Now, imagine if you could simply bring your attention back to the present moment, focusing only on the taste of the coffee, texture of the bread, calm of the morning. By anchoring yourself in the now, the worries start to fade, and you feel more centered, more at peace. To practice this intentionally, try incorporating moments of mindfulness into your day. It can be something as simple as paying attention to your breathing for 2 minutes, or fully focusing on a task you're doing, washing dishes or walking. The act of repeatedly bringing your mind back to the present is what will allow you to release emotions that are stuck in another time. When you're in the now, you naturally detach from what you can't control, because you realize that the only control you truly have is over the present moment. And it's in this moment that you find your true emotional freedom. Radical self-acceptance, the key to emotional detachment. At some point, we all struggle with parts of ourselves. Maybe it's that flaw that seems to never go away, or a personality trait you just wish were different. But what if the true path to emotional detachment was to accept all these parts of ourselves without judgment? Radical self-acceptance is exactly that, embracing who we are deeply and compassionately. This means accepting not only our strengths, but also our weaknesses without punishing ourselves for them. After all, how can we detach from something if we haven't even fully accepted it? Think of someone who constantly tries to hide their negative emotions, pretending that everything is fine all the time. This person never allows themselves to be vulnerable or show their insecurities. But what happens is that these repressed emotions build up and create an even heavier burden. Now imagine the opposite. Someone who, instead of hiding, decides to embrace their emotions, whether anger, sadness, or fear. This person doesn't try to fight who they are at that moment, but accepts their imperfections as part of their journey. This acceptance creates space for detachment, because there's no longer a need to hide or fight against who you truly are. Want a practical example of how to apply this? Start practicing self-acceptance by keeping an emotional journal. Write down daily what you're feeling without judgment. When you feel vulnerable or insecure, allow yourself to acknowledge these emotions without trying to change them immediately. Over time, this practice will teach you to accept your emotions as part of who you are, without clinging to them. you'll realize that true power comes from the unconditional acceptance of yourself. And with that, emotional detachment becomes a natural consequence of this radical acceptance. Detachment through surrender, letting go of excessive control. How many times in life have you tried to control every detail? Maybe it's at work, in relationships, or even the small things in daily life. The desire for control is a natural reaction, but it can become a major obstacle to emotional detachment. In fact, detachment isn't just about releasing emotions, but also about letting go of the need to control everything. When you surrender to the flow of life, allowing things to follow their natural course, you find an unexpected freedom. Think of a time when you were obsessed with making something happen in a certain way. Maybe you planned a trip or an important project, and every detail had to be exactly as you imagined. What happened when something went wrong? You probably felt frustrated and disappointed because things didn't go as planned. Now, think of a situation where you simply let things flow without the need to micromanage everything. The result was probably lighter, more fluid. This is the beauty of surrender. When you let go of excessive control, you create space for life to surprise you. The practice of surrender can start with something simple, like letting go of the need to have the last word in an argument, or allowing a project to move forward without unnecessary interference. You're not abandoning your responsibility, but rather accepting that not everything can be controlled. By doing so, you release the burden of carrying the world on your shoulders and find peace in the unknown. This detachment from excessive control is liberating and opens doors to new opportunities and experiences you might never have considered. Now that you understand the power of emotional detachment, think, what's holding you back? Could it be those emotions you've been repressing, or maybe the need to control every detail of your life? Perhaps it's resistance to change, or the difficulty of living in the present moment. Truth is, by applying these principles, you begin to realize that the weight you've been carrying for so long doesn't need to be there anymore. All you have to do is accept, observe, be flexible, surrender to the present, and above all, accept yourself as you are. The journey to emotional detachment is a constant practice, but the results are transformative. So what will you do from today onward? Will you keep holding on to those emotions that trap you, or will you allow yourself to let go and find inner peace? You have the power to change your life, and the choice is in your hand. If you want to continue learning about how to transform your emotions and live more lightly, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Together, we can keep exploring these practices and transforming our lives, one step at a time.